For 52 years, the official record said no human had ever run 100 yards in under 9.4 seconds. The Amateur Athletic Association made sure you'd never know that a man named Harry Hutchens already had. In 1884, 10,000 witnesses watched it happen. That's the story they tell. It isn't what happened. Someone made sure you'd never hear this. Here's what the records were rewritten to hide. The year is 1884. Professional athletics is enormous in England. Working-class men race for prize money in front of packed crowds. Harry Hutchens is the best of all of them, a bricklayer from Surbiton who moves in a way that makes people stop breathing. 10,000 people pack Lily Bridge Stadium in London on a single July afternoon just to watch him run. Not for a national title, not for a medal, for cash. 4 years earlier, the Amateur Athletic Association had been founded by Oxford men, wealthy gentlemen runners. They despised professional athletics, called it common, called it spectacle. They had already started planning what to do about it, and Hutchens was standing exactly in their way. On July 5, 1884, Harry Hutchens ran 100 yards in 9.25 seconds. Officials were present. The time was recorded. It was the fastest 100 yards a human being had ever run. It stayed that way for a long time, longer than you've been told. 52 years later, Jesse Owens ran 9.4 seconds at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. The world called it a world record. Newspapers ran headlines. History books still carry it, but Hutchens ran faster in 1884. The gap is right there in the ledger if you know where to look. The AAA had already decided what would count. Professional records didn't. Not because the timing was wrong, not because the conditions were bad, because the man running was paid. That was sufficient. The record didn't vanish overnight. It was never entered into the places history looks. The easy explanation is that Hutchens' time was inflated, exaggerated for gambling interest. That's what they want you to reach for. But here's what doesn't work. The timing apparatus at Lily Bridge was identical to what the AAA used for its own certified results. Same watches, same methods. Several of the officials who recorded his time worked across both circuits. Hutchens didn't run alone. Other men raced that day, and their times are consistent with his. No anomalous wind, no slope, no discrepancy that accounts for the gap. And the professional circuit had every financial reason to prevent fraudulent performances. An unbeatable record would collapse the betting markets the entire industry depended on. These men were not incentivized to lie in the direction that would destroy their own business. But that's not the part they buried. Here is what the AAA actually did. In 1880, they established a formal rule. No professional athlete could hold an official record. Not then. Not retroactively. Not ever. Any performance run for prize money was, by definition, unofficial. The language was measured. The effect was surgical. Every world record held by a working man who ran for a living was reclassified. Not athletics. Entertainment. It wasn't only Hutchens. Walter George, Arthur Duffy, Charles Sherrill, professional and mixed-status athletes whose time should have entered the record books, rerouted into a separate ledger no governing body was required to acknowledge. By 1896, when the modern Olympics launched, the AAA model had already spread. The IAAF, the body that still governs track and field today, inherited those rules almost intact. They wrote Hutchens out of history not with a scandal, not with a formal vote, with a definition. They defined what athletic achievement meant. Then they made sure that definition only applied to men like them. The 52 years Jesse Owens' mark stood as the human ceiling. That wasn't a gap in performance. That was the length of a cover-up. And the organization that authored it is still the one that decides what counts. Think about what that means for every sprinter who trained between 1884 and 1936. They were chasing a benchmark that had already been cleared. They didn't know it. Their coaches didn't know it. The journalists reporting world records didn't know it. The entire developmental arc of sprint training for half a century was built on a fabricated ceiling. Hutchens lived until 1939. He watched Jesse Owens in Berlin be called a miracle of human achievement. He was 74 years old. He had run faster at 22. Nobody asked him about it. Nobody printed his name next to the record. He died 11 months after Berlin. The time he had posted at Lilly Bridge, the one nobody could officially explain, was still sitting in a ledger no one was required to open. The IAAF updated its classification rules in 2004. Professional-era performances are still not on the official list. The governing body says it lacks sufficient documentation to verify results from that period. Harry Hutchens' 1884 time has never been formally reviewed. No panel convened. No public statement issued. The question was never whether he ran 9.25 seconds in 1884. The question is who decided you weren't supposed to know that he did.